Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
President Obama once said, "The culture wars are so 1990s." Yet here we are today with this president single-handedly ramping up the culture wars to unprecedented levels. And what are the culture wars about? An epic clash between two diametrically opposed worldviews. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action, with Steve Crampton, Liberty Counsel's Vice President and General Counsel. Steve, as I mentioned in the opening monologue, this isn't a matter of right versus left necessarily. It's more, from my perspective, a matter of right versus wrong. But ultimately, when you bring it up to a 30,000-foot level, all of these ongoing battles we see relative to Obamacare, the HHS mandate, yes, the abortion issue, the issues of surrounding same-sex marriage, education, public education versus private education, homeschooling, and on and on and on it goes. There's a never-ending litany of areas in which the left and the right, if you will, disagree. Doesn't it all boil down to two completely polarized worldviews and how individuals and communities of people view the world?
Yes, I guess we could end the show right there. Just say yes. Yeah, that's
okay.
it. I mean, that's the end. But to look behind the scenes and the philosophy that undergirds, say, let's just take Obamacare. Why is it a good idea for government to come in and dictate to the insurance companies, to employers, and even to every individual in America of a certain age, whether to obtain insurance, what that insurance should look like, and in particular, to get to the nuts and bolts, whether it should include and guarantee so-called reproductive rights and free access to things like abortion. I mean, the worldview implications behind that are enormous. Why should we think that government could come in and mandate these things, and that would be a good thing, a better thing than is what is happening on the ground, as it were, in a more or less free market? We're a far cry, as you know, from really true free market economy in healthcare in particular. But, what's the difference there? And ultimately, don't you have to come down to the view with big government that man is basically good, to get it right down to biblical roots, as opposed to the view of the founders that says man is not basically good, which is why you had to have limited government, limited power, separation of powers, federal system, the state versus the Congress and the federal.
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances, yeah. Because each one will check the other. Read the Federalist Papers. It's just chock full of philosophical and worldview sort of assumptions, sometimes laid out in black and white for us, that now are just kind of blown over, not even really discussed, unfortunately, in public education. But President Obama embodies, in many respects, doesn't he, that view that give me all authority, and trust me, I'll take care of everything, because at the end of the day, I'm just a good guy, and I can do it better.
And that is as you mentioned, our founders were operating from, and these two polarized worldviews I'm mentioning, really, I mean, there are a number of ways to describe them.
Yes.
But I would say, generally speaking, it's the worldview of our founders, the Judeo-Christian worldview, versus the worldview of this president, of progressives, which is a secular socialist worldview. Yes. It is a pseudo-utopian worldview that is deeply rooted in the views and the philosophies of people like Karl Marx and Engels and others who believe that man can actually create as close as possible a heaven on earth, right, because man is inherently good, and egalitarianism rules the day. And so just leave it to the elite, those of us who are really, really smart and come up with things like Obamacare, right, because we know better how your healthcare needs need to be met. So let us set up this massive bureaucracy to ensure. And I know we're going to have to make some sacrifices, as this president said. Some people may have to die.
Some freedoms will have to be eliminated.
So that others may live. But that is rooted in that neo-Marxist, that secular socialist worldview, that, frankly, that progressive worldview, which has failed every time it's been implemented. Without fail, it's failed.
Ultimately, that is a worldview, that is an approach to life that omits God, if not directly declares God is dead, God doesn't exist.
Nietzsche, right.
So you go back to our charter, our nation's charter, the Declaration of Independence, which sadly enough our courts do not recognize as authoritative in legal argument. But nevertheless, it is an incredible explication of the worldview that undergirds, or at least it used to, America, and the root principles of how we got to where we are today. And what does it say, first and foremost, but that our rights come from God, from our Creator. And so to deny that Creator, there is no guarantee then for our freedoms any longer. No protection. I mean, your constitutional rights can be written down there, but as we see on a daily basis now, they're just ignored and really bulldozed at the end of the day in implementing that utopian view that you have laid out, that Obamacare sort of embodies.
Well, the framework within which our Constitution was framed, was drafted, was such that, the mindset that God giveth and God taketh away.
That's right.
Well, that's the Judeo-Christian worldview. That's the worldview of those who wrote the Declaration of Independence. The secular socialist, the progressive worldview says government giveth and government taketh away. And as we know, I'm trying to think offhand who it was that said absolute power, or power corrupts absolute, power corrupts absolute. Lord Axton, yes, thank you. That's a reality. And when we rely on man, rely on government, and don't have accountability to a creator, to certain absolute truths, to certain unalienable rights, when those are not fixed and steadfast, but instead are malleable in a living, breathing kind of constitutional mindset that the Constitution is whatever the judges say it is. The Constitution
the living
is,
Constitution.
Who was it that said, I think Oliver Wendell Holmes, whoever makes the law is the guy who can lick the other guy. That's, we've seen, that's worked out not so well in Joseph Stalin's Russia, in Adolf Hitler's Germany.
That's right.
And that's all of that same mindset that says ultimately man is God, and God is out of the picture.
Exactly right. And, it is a tragedy, I think. It ought to be illegal, if I can go that far, that our children are not taught these principles, are not taught at least what the founders really believed. Consider our criminal justice system. The underpinnings of that system. Why was it wrong to murder? Well, they got that, straight from Scripture. Now, there's a natural law arguments and so forth. But it wasn't until really fairly recently, the 1950s and 60s, that we ripped out all of those Judeo-Christian underpinnings of even our criminal law and sort of opened Pandora's box that way. And you look at the statistics. I know they say statistics lie, and 47% of statistics are meaningless or something. But if you look at the astronomical rise of crime in our nation from that time period, or say the beginnings of the 60s, you had the sexual revolution, you had the start of when it goes from, as Carmen would say, and We Need God in America again. Remember the 50s, the problems in the public school were chewing gum and tardiness to class or something. Now you've got rapes and murders and sexual molestations taking place all over the place. There are reasons for those things. We have ripped away the foundations that made our nation great, and now we think, as you say, man is God, and we can do it all without him.
And why should we be surprised when it's happening at the highest levels? When a justice of the United States Supreme Court says, no, we can deconstruct and redefine the institution of marriage, and we can just arbitrarily say it is something that it is not and cannot be.
That's right.
We can say the Ten Commandments thing and that whole thou shalt not murder thing. 1973 Roe v. Wade, they said no, unless thou shalt not murder, unless it's inconvenient for a woman to have the baby. After all, then it's okay to murder. That's all worldview, folks. That is a secular socialist worldview that says man is the ultimate arbiter of right and wrong, and that is not truth. And we answer and are accountable to a sovereign God who is the author of life and the author of absolute truth. And as long as we're here at Liberty Counsel, we will continue to defend and stand firm for that truth in a world that loves darkness and hates truth. Go to lc.org to help contribute to Liberty Counsel's mission. All our work we do is pro bono. We do it free of charge. So we need the generosity of folks like you to protect those who are being attacked by a worldview that says they don't have unalienable rights. Go to lc.org to sign up and become a part of Liberty Counsel's team today.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.